Now that I've used a different technique on all of my papers, I'm ready to start thinking of those individual papers and putting them together as a whole so that my sculpture is a little bit more filled out and not quite so random. And you don't have to connect all of the papers to each other, but you are going to want to kind of look for places where you could maybe glue some pieces down so that it has a little bit more form, right? We want it to fill out a little bit more. So if I wanted to glue these two together, I would take that tab right there and I would get a practice paper. Remember, practice paper is just extra paper we have. It has something, you know, maybe printed out on the back that we don't need anymore. And I'm going to use my glue stick and just get a healthy amount of glue on there. You want, that's why we're using the practice paper, is because you want like a thick amount. You don't want to be just using one little tiny dot. And then I would just kind of fold that around. And then the same way with like the cutting, if I glue something on one part, then I need to glue it in the same way to all of my other parts. So when I'm moving on to the next one, I want to really pay attention to how I glued it here and do the same thing over here. So I am looking at it and I'm observing I glued it down right underneath the curls. So this one I'm going to glue down underneath the curls, which means this part of my paper needs glue. Now let me show you what you do if you accidentally made a mistake. Let's pretend that I forgot and I put the glue on the wrong side. And then I go to glue it down and I start to glue it and I look at it and I'm like, wait a minute, those two shapes don't look the same, right? If that happens, this glue dries clear. So you can just kind of wipe it, it'll dry off clear. And then you would put glue on the correct side. And glue it down. I would repeat that same process on the other two sides. Another thing that you can do is look at the places, if you have any like long fringe, you can think about how you might want to attach those strips of paper to different parts of your sculpture to make interesting designs or patterns. So for this step, I'm just going to speed it up and show you how I could take this fringe and create a design with it by gluing it down to different parts of my sculpture. And then I would repeat this pattern of gluing onto all of the other three sides. And then the last thing you're going to want to think about doing with your sculpture is figuring out if there's a way to cover up the staples. So on mine, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these curls and just put kind of glue on the back of those curls. And then curl them down. Let me see if I can show you so that it covers up the staples. And it, you know, it might not cover up every staple, like that middle staple you can still see, but it kind of helps to fill it in so that the staples aren't the first thing you notice. And then same as always, whatever I do to one part, I would need to repeat all the way around. So my sculpture is finished now. You can see that I didn't put glue on every single paper. There's some parts, especially these orange curls, are just loose. You don't have to glue everything together, but choosing a few specific places to glue together will give your sculpture a really interesting form.